Welcome back, everyone, to the Council of Elrond, and finally, the Rings of Power. All three first episodes have dropped, and we're here today to get into some spoiler territory. So let's just get that from the get-go. We're going to be reviewing episode 1, so it's fine if you haven't seen episode 2 and 3. We're just going to be discussing all of our thoughts and theories. And we're very excited that finally it has come after 2 years. Are you excited?
It's been a long wait,
and
I'm very excited.
So for this series of our breakdowns of the Rings of Power, we are going to be discussing our best moments and our worst moments as well. So just a little extra thing to add at the end of every episode. So I don't know if you...
Not our best moments. We have loads of best moments, but the best moments from each episode.
Ah, right, yes. That's what I meant. That was my pitch. Yeah, no,
that was a bad moment just there for you.
Yeah, exactly. Not one of our best moments. But yeah, so you guys can get in touch in the comment section. You can let us know what your best moment of the episode was, what your worst moment of the episode was. So it could be something funny, it could be something stupid, it could be whatever you like. And speaking of commenting, you can now comment on Spotify. So make sure to let us know there. But also on YouTube, you will finally be seeing our beautiful faces again. So
look at us.
Yeah, we will be releasing the full podcast on YouTube now, featuring us in video format, not just our
dulcet tones.
Yes, absolutely. So please go subscribe there to YouTube and drop us some comments there and all.
Give us
nice
some love.
things. Yeah, that would be great. And in the future episodes you might be seeing some familiar faces. So looking forward to that. So let's get into it. Episode 1, Juan.
Uno.
It opens up with an orc bringing a new badass looking crown to Sauron, the new actor. So this is actor played by Jack Lowden. Thoughts on all this?
On all of this?
Just in general, what do you think of this new actor guy?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest. The very first thing that was weird for me in this thing was that we're getting a new actor. We knew that was going to happen before, and we also knew that there was going to be a new actor playing Adar, because we knew that Joseph Maul was not coming back. So we knew all that kind of stuff before, but it was kind of weird how we saw both new actors together in one of the opening scenes, and it was like,
it's true.
I think people that didn't really know so much of what was going on behind the scenes, like we're like invested in this with Twitter, and we're always like checking up what's going on behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. If you're just a casual watcher and you didn't know that Adar was being replaced with a new actor, you didn't know what was going on with the Sauron thing, you're like, wait, have both these actors like dropped out from the roles, or what's going on? Is the other actor who plays Adar going to come back later when Halbrand became Sauron again? So I thought it was a bit weird that was going to be like the opening shot because of the two new actors.
True.
But so that was a bit weird. The crown that you spoke about was class. I love the design of that crown. It's kind of the same as the one we saw in like the opening scene from season 1 as well, that we see Sauron in his like evil form.
Yes, a little bit. And actually
in the prologue.
Just when you mentioned that as well, this whole scene kind of retcons that.
Yeah.
The whole Sauron thing, because we do see Sauron's evil form and he's, dominating, and all the orcs are like bowing down to him.
He's like 7 foot tall in his armor, and now he's just like in his pretty boy makeup. And
so it is kind of interesting that they went for this, where the orcs are kind of mumbling and grumbling and kind of angry with this fair form of Sauron.
So obviously in season 1, in the prologue, we see, now again, that wasn't really an exact what happened in history. That was kind of, again, like Galadriel saying, this is like maybe from the elves' perspective. Maybe she was thinking, this is probably what happened where Sauron went.
That's true, actually. I didn't
I'm only just thinking about this now off the top of my head. I was agreeing with you 2 seconds ago, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but, I suppose it is kind of fantasized a little bit, and it could be, like an incoherent narrator kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe. Exactly. Very good. Bit like us. We're a bit incoherent at times. But I think I prefer the incoherent narrator version, because I liked the idea of big, tall, menacing, evil, armor-clad Sauron with all the orcs just worshipping and be like, oh, I'm so... Not just worshipping, but like in fear of this like new god who's there, basically, I'm your new leader, all that kind of stuff. This one is just like, he's a guy, and first of all, he's like, hi, I'm Sauron, I'm going to be your new leader. And I'm like, you don't need to introduce yourself and tell them your name. They should know who you are. They should be worshipping you, basically. You're the lieutenant of Morgoth, and you're also a Maya,
Yeah.
and you're just this like, you know, amazingly high up being compared to these lowly orcs. So he should just be like walking into the room, and it's not like, you know, it's like
It could be if you're working for your boss for 10 years, but like his second in command is also there. He's not going to reintroduce his name when the boss retires from the company.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought the same thing, and I was going to ask you about that whole thing. It kind of felt very forced to the audience, like letting you know, by the way, I'm Sauron, even though I look like a different actor. And also it took me out of it a little bit, just seeing the amount of orcs he was talking to. Like if this is him in a kind of a coronation kind of thing, introducing himself, why is he only doing it to like 50 orcs when there should be like hundreds of thousands?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's one of those things where I felt like in season 1, I was like, I suppose they had the whole constraints with COVID. And then when you look at House of the Dragon and you see like the coronation scene there, and it looks like that they're actually crowning the king in front of the entire town.
The realm,
Yeah, in front of all of King's Landing. So it's just one of those things, but sure, look, it didn't bother me too much.
Is this whole scene happening before or after? Like, Galadriel obviously goes up and discovers... Well, I suppose obviously, no, it's after. I've just answered my own question. I was going to say after Galadriel discovers the Forward Dwaith and sees not just discovers that that's there, but discovers that Sauron had been meddling with powers of the unseen world and like killing orcs and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, because it feels like it should be after that, because Sauron dies and then it's like in a couple of days he's Halbrand, basically. It's that's the kind of way it seems. And then... I don't know. I don't understand the timeline of what's going on. Really, it's just a little bit confusing.
True. I didn't think about that, actually.
Because obviously Sauron announces, "I'm now your new leader. I'm going to be killing lots of orcs in my experiments." And then we see that he does kill orcs and experiments with them, because they're like, you know, Galadriel finds orcs that are like melted into the wall and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but if we're looking at this episode, it looks like as soon as he becomes their new leader, he's killed.
Yeah.
So
there's just a mutiny immediately.
It's true. I actually didn't think about that. That's a
why
great
I'm
point.
here, Dave.
But anyway,
to guide you.
We get the...
Call me Anata. We're jumping ahead.
Yeah, don't jump ahead. We've got the quote, "Morgoth is gone, leaving us alone in disgrace." This is from Sauron, by the way. "But today a new age begins under me, your new master, Sauron." So that's why I have in the notes here, had they just never met him before? It's kind of strange. And he has his little quote as well, which we heard in season 1, where he says, "Not of the flesh, but over flesh, power of the unseen world," which is clearly where
they love that line.
They love that line. Adar picks that up, and that's obviously where he brings it into season 1.
Brimbor says it as well.
Yes, exactly. So the orcs don't really like this. I saw this on Twitter from our friend Harry from Daily Rings of Power. He put up like a picture of Lord Farquaad from Shrek. Do you remember that quote where he goes, "Some of you may die, but that is a risk I am willing to take.
That is a sacrifice I am willing to take." Yeah.
So basically, he was like, this is what Sauron is saying to his squabble of orcs.
It wasn't a great like hype speech.
No, it wasn't a hype man speech. No, but yeah, they didn't really like this. They didn't take this. The orcs
get on board. No,
they didn't really like the insults to their race, where he was saying, you know, the Valar will never forgive you, the elves will never accept you, all this kind of stuff. And basically, they attempt to assassinate him. He's clearly not the father figure that Adar was, so he's gruesomely murdered by the orcs. Or sorry, he gruesomely murders the orc that tries to kill him.
Yeah, I stabs him like 5 times in the head.
I thought the action was pretty cool here, actually.
Yeah.
I thought we're definitely getting more darker scenes. Like, we've seen a lot of eye stabs and face stabs so far.
But I mean, in season 1, in like the 7th episode, when there's the little battle in the village and the orcs attack, and Arondir stabs that big giant orc in the eye. And it's like, remember, he's like up against the well, and the orc is like trying to, and he's like, that was so gross.
That was gross,
and that was really like very, very gruesome. So, they're not shying away from just gruesome murder in this series, which is quite good. I mean, keep going.
And speaking of it, we do see Adar then straight away as he's about to crown Sauron. He gruesomely just stabs him with the pointy end of that helm.
I couldn't enjoy it thanks to this being spoiled in the trailers. It's like, I hate trailers.
I know.
I hate trailers, and I have to watch them because I have to review them. Because basically, they're like, in the trailer, they showed like Adar holding that crown, turning it upside down and stabbing someone in the head.
Yeah, I know.
And then it's like the whole scene, as soon as I saw that scene of Adar holding the crown, not even like when he was holding it before, it's been brought out by the orc, and I see, okay, well, there's Adar, he's going to hold it at some point, and there's the only person who had kind of that reddish blonde hair. I was like, well, this is how he's going to kill him. And like the whole time, I couldn't concentrate on what was happening in the dialogue. I was just thinking, okay, it's going to get to the scene where he stabs him in the head. What's going to happen then? And so it's like that whole part before is kind of spoiled for me because I'm anxious, like waiting for that scene to happen, or that part.
True.
And I love teaser trailers where they're like, just little glimpses
where you
no
see
context,
maybe the helmet coming out or something like that. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like the context of someone actually doing a forceful stab.
Because if I had seen Adar raise that crown and they zoom in on his hands and then it shows him, the music changes, he flips it and stabs. It was such a cool scene, and it's like the impact of seeing the switch and like the way he turns the crown. That would have impacted so much more if you hadn't just been like, oh, I've already seen this in the trailer.
Yeah.
And you've seen it out of context where you haven't enjoyed it that much.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know?
No, I get you. You know,
it's a waste. It's a waste.
Yeah, so we get to see Adar talk. So what he talked about in season 1, where he says, I split him in two, we actually get to see that scene. He says, I killed Sauron. I was about to call him Saruman. And
takes a few stabs.
I thought that was a pretty cool scene. Like, I really enjoyed, like Sauron gets brutally murdered again.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty cool how light just emits from like,
the explosion was class.
Orifices. Yeah, it just comes out of everywhere and he just like explodes. And it was kind of a bit of a jump scare. Bit of a shock.
Oh, it was, because like he kicked him, and then when he went to kick him the second time, I was like, something's gonna happen here. And then it was the second kick that he hits him, and then just like, when you watch it back, the light's coming out of his eyes and his mouth. It's very much
it's like Watchmen.
Yeah,
like when Dr. Manhattan like kind of becomes Dr. Manhattan and he turns into this big blue thing. Actually, just before Sauron dies or gets split in two, he's being stabbed by all the orcs, and he's fending some of them away, and he kicks one, and I think he punches one, and the orc kind of goes flying into the distance. Really reminded me of Peter Jackson's Sauron when he's beating all the elves.
It did bring back a little bit of that.
There's a couple of those.
I liked how he pulled out his sword as well. It's like he pulled it out from this hidden place behind his back. Like he pulled it out from down here. And it was like, you didn't pull it out like across his front. He pulled it out from behind his back like this. Like where some people might store a dagger in their back.
Yeah.
He pulls out this giant menacing sword. I was like, oh my God, where has that been the whole time? And it didn't really go with his armor. So I was like, he was like, guys, you mixed up my swords. This outfit should have my nice skinny blade.
Yeah, this wasn't a good accessory.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But it looked pretty badass and it was cool. Also, he gets angry at one point and he like shouts, and his whole face, just like the veins and like the dark eyes. I
like
love those little details. That's really cool.
That was similar to when Halbrand was going nuts at Galadriel at the end of season 1, and it was all just changing.
And so, just the effects on that part, and the effects for the explosion and the whole landmass just turning to ice, definitely thumbs up for that.
Yeah, I was going to say actually, like sound design, I thought was really good for
sound
that.
Design as well.
For the explosion from Sauron,
but the VFX,
VFX, and that was kind of cool getting to see the forward wave like changing into the icy place it is now.
We got to see it in the trailer, but
that's true. But we didn't. We were speculating what it was. Like I didn't know if it was the forward weight. Now I think just before they showed the exact same image of that castle or whatever, and it wasn't covered in ice.
Yeah, it was
right.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought that was cool, and he leaves behind his Jedi robes, and he's disappeared. So Adar's like, "What's going on?" And then, what are your thoughts on the like slime monster blood symbiote thing?
Yeah, I haven't looked really at anything online, so I don't know if this is very controversial or not. But for me, when I started seeing it, I was like, "Is this how Sauron escapes? He just like the blood drips down," and I was very much like, "This is not lore," and I was internally I was being like, "I don't like it," and then after like. When he attacks the rat and he's like crawling up the hill, I was like, this is so weird and I don't like it. But then I was just like, Johnny, just let yourself enjoy it. Like it's just a different thing.
Don't be so pessimistic.
Imagine you're just watching Venom, and I was just and then I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And then I went back and watched it again, and that scene I was like, it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know. They never go into the specifics of how he regenerates. We just know that he can lose bodily form, and it takes him a long time to kind of regenerate. And every time he gets killed, it takes him even longer.
Yeah.
So It was a bit like over the top, I think, but definitely not the worst thing. And I think it was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, I'm kind of into it. I
Symbiote Sauron.
Immediately just thought it was weird, especially when he kind of flops off that stone and
yeah.
lies down like a...
He's like a cartoon character. Like.
So that was kind of weird. But then, yeah, when he like takes over that woman's body and then becomes Halbrand somehow, I didn't really get what was going on there, because I was like, wait, wasn't that a woman in the cart? But now he becomes Halbrand. So I'm guessing he just needs some sort of flesh.
Yeah.
Or some sort of meat.
I was like,
something.
again, it took me 2 seconds just to be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it because it isn't really... It made... I was actually relieved because I saw in the trailers we get to see some gooey monster. And I was like, it's
going to be some new monster.
What is that? I was like...
I was worried about that too. Yeah.
I was worried about that. And then I was like, oh, it's actually... This is just how how Sauron takes shape before he's in a fair form. Or this is his like symbiote, I suppose. And
his morphing stage.
Yeah.
I like you morphing Sour Rangers.
Sauron Rangers. I liked it. So yeah, guys, let us know what you guys thought, because it's an interesting one.
Get
and a controversial one. And as well, I'm the same as you. I actually have been kind of avoiding Twitter like the plague, like the black plague of Sauron. So I don't know what the reaction is there. So I think immediately when we finish recording, we're going to just see everyone disagreeing with us. And
yeah, that's what usually happens.
So yeah, and that also, I was going to bring up that gave me questions about like, was there a huge time jump? Like how much after... We saw this scene starts with the dawn of the Second Age, and then it looks like on the same day he becomes Halbrand, and then the same day he gets on this boat, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. So is it
very
just
quick?
Is it just they sped up the process? I
think they did. I was going to say that there's one part that you spoke about there where he's in his kind of like symbiote form, and he's like kind of half. He's got like arms and like a big belly, and he flops off this rock, and he's like lying on the ground, and I think it's kind of like sunny. And then when the cart comes along and rolls over him, he's covered in snow.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I saw that the second time I went back and watched it. So I was like, okay, maybe they're trying to show there that this is the passage of time. But it just didn't feel like it was a very long... I don't know. No. There could have been just a couple of like
they should have done like a little... What time lapse? Time lapse,
yeah.
Of like changing seasons and all that.
Exactly. Like, I mean, there could have been just like a few seconds. Like, they didn't need to waste like a long time to show it. But like, they could have just done a little... Like a time lapse, a little montage of just whatever... of
just like that
Rocky montage,
that little blob just like running
carrying
around.
rocks up and down the mountain. But yeah, it did seem very fast, and suddenly he's just like, okay, now I'm a man, and I just bump again. I've been Halbrand for 20 minutes, and I bump into these other men, and they're just like, come with us. He's like, okay, I'm just going to jump straight on a boat with you, and yeah, it seemed very sped up. I'm just going to assume that there was a long time before, like the process of changing took time, and then he became Halbrand. We saw like one scene of him on his own, looking into a campfire that he'd built as well.
Yeah, I was going to say there was like serious menacing music when that was happening.
It was cool. I liked the look of Halbrand.
Dark.
Yeah.
So but it did make me wonder while I was watching that, because the person who must not be named that was watching it with me was like, can Sauron feel pain? And then I started to think when he was being stabbed. And then I started to think like, does Sauron need a fire when he's sitting there? Does Sauron go hungry? And I just started like thinking about all these things, but then I went into the next scene.
I assume that similar to the Istari, like Gandalf and the wizards, when they come to Middle Earth and they take on bodily form,
right? Yeah.
They are kind of like locked into those kind of things. So I think that when he's Halbrand, when he's a man, maybe he has some sort of extra powers, but I think his bodily form, like if you cut him, it'll bleed. And like, you know...
but he won't necessarily die from a mortal wound.
Probably not. But like he probably still gets hungry. Probably still feels cold.
I'm cold and hungry right now as well.
Would you like a hug?
I'm not Halbrand. But yeah, you mentioned there that we meet a bunch of new travelers. And we meet a group led by the character named Diarmid. So he's Irish.
Diarmid?
Yeah, that was his name. Like if you're watching on subtitles, it comes up Diarmid. I actually paused at one point to see the actor, but yeah, I don't think the actor's Irish. So yeah, that was cool. We're getting represented in Middle Earth yet again. So did you like the interaction? Because I thought he was a cool character.
Yeah, he seemed very warm, very nice.
Yeah, like we see him. We see Halbrand being tempted by good again, which is not really against the lore, but it seemed like they were leaning heavily into that a lot in the first season, but it was nice to see where the origin of that came, and then it kind of, Halbrand or Sauron was obviously thinking like, I could
Starting
be
to
good.
develop his plan,
Yeah, but you can kind of see him switch and flip flop and being like, I kind of want to steal that guy's fancy heraldry there, but I also kind of want to be good, but then I want to kill him.
Yeah. I like how quickly he was just like, no, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Sorry, I was going to say as well, I was going to mention just before he actually meets those men, the scenery. There's a few scenes where even when the woman who's in the cart that eventually runs over him, that whole scene, it's just beautiful. Like the mountains, and it's amazing. Where was that shot? Do you know?
I don't know, but actually, just as the blob was coming out of the mountain, there's a really, really nice little musical motif that sounded very Howard Shore, very Lord of the Rings, and you get to see a big snowy mountainside.
Yeah.
And I just kind of instantly got a feeling of Lord of the Rings and Howard Shore again. I was like, this is great. I should be feeling a lot more of this. But,
I have the same.
I felt that, and I was like, this is a really good feeling. And then it actually made me sad because I'm like, I'm actually not feeling enough of this.
Yeah.
But there was, we'll get into it. There's more in this episode, and we'll talk about the later episodes as well.
Yeah, we will talk about the later ones. I think in this episode was maybe the least I felt that feeling of like, I'm in Middle Earth.
Right, yeah.
We'll get into that a bit more later on, but
but
that it is nice to pick up on those small moments where you're like, you hear the music, you see the snow-covered mountains, and I don't know, you're just like, here we are.
Yeah,
I'm home.
By the way, with Sauron like repenting, that's not like completely against lore because he does actually try to.
He considers it.
He considers it for like a couple of moments, and he's like, nah. No, he does. He kind of like. He does, yeah. He kind of wants to be good for a moment.
He wants to repent a little bit.
So Halloran joins his new rat pack, and this is where he ends up on the ship that's destroyed by the worm that we see in season 1. And yeah, like we said, we took the heraldry from a dead man. This is what Halbrand said, but like it was actually quite cool that he left him for dead. It wasn't just like a dead man that he found.
He's like, he's a dead man now.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good to see the bad side of Halbrand because that character Halbad, because he was just good the whole first season, but there were some little things he might have said, but it's nice to actually see his background as a bad guy.
Or he kind of spazzed out and like killed all, or like attacked all the guys in Numenor.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
there was like those little moments where he's like, "I'm a bad boy.
Yeah,
you don't know what I've done.
I've done evil."
Yeah.
But I was curious about the scene why the beast or the worm doesn't eat him.
I imagine he probably has some sort of control. The first time I wasn't sure, and I've watched this episode twice. So the second time, you kind of focus in and you look for those details, and it did look like he kind of makes a gesture, and then the sea dragon thing just kind of veers away at the last minute, and it definitely seems like he either has a bit of control over him, or the sea dragon is like, "Oh, this thing's evil. I don't want to go near that." So it's very bony.
Yeah. No. But so do you think if he has control over these creatures that he could have summoned the creature to come? Because he did seem surprised in the scene. Like he was like, hold on to something. Yeah. But he could have summoned it, and
I don't know, maybe he didn't summon it, but maybe when it's just in his vicinity, he's like, oh, well, now I can just kind of like the warg as well later.
Yeah.
He's like...
Exactly, yeah. He has a bit of control over the warg as well.
Yeah. He's a lover of all animals.
Yeah, he's a real lover. So then we get to see the Rings of Power new title logo. So this is obviously different from... Well, actually, sorry, I was writing these notes before I moved on to the next episode. So we'll talk about the next episodes. But this one didn't have a big, long Howard Shore theme with all the grains of sand or anything. It was just...
It was the same as episode 1 from season 1.
Oh, was it?
There was no, title music. There was no intro.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. It looks slightly different. Like
it's kind of greeny,
a little dark. Yeah, it was like green and ivy maybe, but yeah, that was cool. I like that. Then we cut straight into our first introduction with Elrond and Galadriel, and the first time you see them, you hear a little bit of Elrond's theme, you hear a little bit of Galadriel's theme, their musical theme. Like, but this scene for me, I'll ask you about it now. I thought it was a little bit goofy. They were just like chasing each other from Linden to Eregion, or from Eregion to Linden. It was nice to hear their music, but I was like, why? It just seemed like
all over the place. This scene.
Yeah, you didn't like it, no?
No, I didn't like it at all. It was very much. This is a terrible scene.
I just thought it was very like kidsy.
It was very. I have written down in my notes. I've written childish chase scene. That was just my reminder of what.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand, it's like about 500 miles from Eregion to Linden,
Yeah.
and you're telling me in the last 100 meters they're literally like reaching out to try and grab, and it's like, what's she doing trying to grab the rings off him? And why doesn't he just like move them to the other? I don't know. It was like
it just seems like they are two people that would talk this out rather than having a childish chase.
It
for
seemed
10
way
hours.
too childish. Yeah, exactly. Like but like that could be a few days ride, and you can't tell me that two people set off from one location and a few days later they're still neck and neck. It's like,
I know. Yeah,
there's no way.
I didn't like. But even just like they should
And
be
then
so much
also-
more like elegant as well.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think
of
that
course,
she should
yeah.
be reaching out and like
Again,
fingering his rings.
I really think that there's loads of these different parts where they're kind of going, oh, and we could do a little mini kind of callback to something in the original Lord of the Rings movies. And this one was like the
Arwen and
ring
the
race
Nazgûls.
reaching out to
Yeah.
try and grab Arwen. And it's because it's like when you've got two horses racing like side by side and one person's like kind of reaching out, groping towards the other, trying to grab something. That was kind of like, maybe they're trying to call back to that. I don't know, but it's just like, it was so
vibe.
it didn't land, whatever they were going for.
No, I didn't like that.
And then it's like Elrond's trying to get away from her. He does, and then literally like she just comes up and suddenly she's caught by Elrond's guards. He's like, "You must come with us, and we will take you to Elrond." It's like, what's going on?
how long has he been? Yeah, I know that was.
It was like, it just didn't really. I don't know. It didn't make any sense at all. And then also, we've seen nearly the entire scene in the trailers as well, or in not the trailers, but like the whatever came out on Twitter a few days before. Like we saw this whole scene play out. I was really, now this is going to sound a bit crazy, but when we saw that scene, the whole scene of giving me the rings and why didn't you tell Celebrimbor and Elrond who Halbrand was, all that kind of stuff, and then Elrond jumps into the water off the waterfall. We saw that entire scene. I'm not sure if everybody did, but they posted that whole scene on Twitter like 2 days before the thing came out. So we saw that whole thing, and I was like kind of wondering, would it be crazy if Amazon recorded an entire scene, or at least the end of that scene when Elrond jumped into the water? I was like, maybe that's all fake. That doesn't actually happen in the final cut, and they recorded that to completely throw everyone off.
Well, him jumping.
Yeah, I thought like, imagine there was something like that released. You watched it, you're like, oh my god, that's so against his character. Why would he do that? He's so level-headed. Then you watch the actual episode, you're like, here comes the part when he jumps off, and then finally he like turns around and
That
they
would be
just
crazy.
discuss it. I'd be like, that'd be so cool. But that didn't happen. He actually just jumped
No,
off.
but also if they release it like 2 or 3 days before the episode dropped, they're not going to be like, let's put it out now. Like, yeah, But by the way, actually, I never knew that him jumping in the trailer was part of that same scene. I actually didn't really know who that was that jumped, even though we broke down the trailers.
Oh yeah, but that whole scene was then released.
I watched it, but I never saw him jumping off at the end.
What? Well, that's
Maybe I didn't watch the whole scene.
that whole scene, starting from when Galadriel comes in and she says like, "Hi, King," and it's like there's complete silence. Well, there's no music in the background, which is all something that kind of just throws it off and makes it feel not Lord of the Ringsy vibe, because there's always music.
Yeah. So it was a bit goofy, that whole introduction, but like, don't worry, guys. We'll be positive because things do get better.
They do, yeah, for sure. But I'd just like to say that in that scene, another thing that was kind of weird was the fact that it's almost like Galadriel and Elrond's roles and interests have kind of switched all of a sudden. It's like Galadriel is the one who's just been hell-bent on Sauron and got to find Sauron, got to kill Sauron the whole time, and then suddenly it's Elrond who's like, this could be Sauron. Like this might be.
Yeah, no,
so
I agree.
It could have been Galadriel to be like, she's Sauron obsessed. So if anyone's like nervous about taking the rings and saying, wait a minute, actually Sauron could be behind this could be his master plan all along, it would have made sense for Galadriel to come to that realization. And also Elrond, he's been working with Gil-galad to try and solve to try and heal the elves, and like, that's what their whole arc was in season 1. And now suddenly he's like, it's Galadriel who's like, no, we gotta at least try to put on the rings because that could heal whatever. So it's like, if they just switch those roles and had Galadriel be the one,
Have it more believable.
it would have been, I think it would have been a bit more believable.
Maybe, but I think they're trying to make the audience relate with Elrond more because he's supposed to look right in this scenario, even though he's not. He's not really right. He's right. He's half right. Like he thinks
He's half Elven.
Elrond half right. Like he's like Sauron could have an influence on these rings when the Ring of Power is made, which it's not in this timeline. So the timeline's all over the place. Yeah. And also Elrond's kind of half right about this situation.
Elrond half right.
Yeah, so like I don't know, because
I think he is the smartest person in the room in this scene as well, because Gil-galad, again, he's just way too he doesn't think about anything. He just rashly just like, this is my decision. Give me the rings or else I'm going to kill you or something.
But he says it nice and slow. And he's like, Elrond, give me the rings.
Yeah. The rings, Elrond.
Yeah. Sorry, let's talk about Gil-galad for a second, because I know this is a gripe you've had with looking at the trailers and stuff, because still the same goddamn costume.
He's the king.
He's still sassy.
He's
but
very sassy.
My God, his haircut. What have they done with him? They've butchered my boy. Like, he's got the back and sides here. It
was like that in season 1.
Was it?
They shaved. He'd no sideburns.
Oh my God.
He's never had that. It's always been terrible.
Well, I don't like it.
I've never it just looks like a wig planted on his head. It doesn't look right. I don't like it at all. I don't like his. I like him the first time. I like the actor. And I really want to like the character Gil-galad, but I don't think they're doing him justice at all. They're making him... He's way too hasty. And he's just like...
Oh, look, that's him in season 1.
Yeah, he's got no sideburns.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Wow, I've never noticed that. But it's way more obvious in this. I think they've given him they've cut it further back. He went in and he's like, I want, a 0 on the sides and I want a 1 just above. And his barber and his costume designer. Shocking.
I think he had... Maybe it's a further episodes, I can't remember, but I think he had maybe one costume change, but it was like the same thing, but it was, instead of it being gold, it was like light gold.
Right, well, anyways, we get a lot of Sindarin spoken, which I thought was cool. Also, it is cool. Galadriel calls Sauron, well, she says fair for him, so this is confirming that she does have the hots for him. So I thought that was cool. And she says... He is Sauron. And then Gil-galad, which is probably one of my favourite parts, goes... Grrr! And it says, exclaims in Sindarin. Yeah, it said that on the subtitles. So I was like, oh, that's how you exclaim in Sindarin. So I love that. Thought that was cool.
Gil-galad exclaims in black speech.
Yeah, exactly. Nash, gosh. So yeah, Gil-galad, he demands the rings as the last hope for Middle-earth. Elrond takes a leaf out of his mother's book and he jumps. Now, I don't know, I wasn't picking up your vibes there. You said like you didn't like the sound of it, but I didn't.
Sound of what?
Of him jumping off, or you didn't like the look of it.
It's not that I didn't like the look of it, I just think it was
too much revealed.
What do you mean?
In the trailer, like you'd seen the spoiler of it already. Is that
no? They showed the entire scene.
Yeah, no, I get that, but like, what did you not like something about it?
I just don't like when I've seen an entire scene and I know.
Oh, no,
I know where it's going, and it's just like so.
No, but did you not like his jump?
Oh, I would give his jump a 10 out of 10. Like if he was in the Olympics.
I meant for the story.
I think he's so level-headed, and he's like, he's a politician at the end of the day, and they've made that very clear. I think he should have been able to, and his relationship with Gil-galad, be like, look, High King, can we just talk about this for a few minutes? And
it's so dramatic. I couldn't imagine watching House of the Dragon and there being 3 characters and two of them are disagreeing and then the other guy jumps off the roof. Like, I just can't, because the writers will figure out a way for them to disagree, come to a conclusion, but still hate each other, and they will do that in House of the Dragon. So I just want less of that. Yeah,
I don't want it to be like, oh well, how else could we get him to show up at Círdan's gaff? Yeah, and it's just like there's loads of ways. But yeah, I don't know. Again, you said it took a leaf after his mother. Like, again, I think they're trying to invoke that, like, this is like Elwing, his mother. For people that don't know, Elrond's mother took one of the last Silmarils and jumped into the sea to try and, like, so that
she was running away from the Sons of Fëanor.
Yeah, so she and
she turned into a bird.
She was going to, like, sacrifice herself and, like, jump into the sea and drown, whatever. But then she got saved and got turned into a bird.
Well, Elrond turned into a fish. He thought he was going to turn into a bird, but unfortunately turned into fish form.
Also, at the very start, the whole scene starts with Gil-galad being like, why did you keep this information from Elrond and Celebrimbor, and they don't explain it. Why did she not just be like, guys, I've just figured out?
I don't know. I don't get that. I never got that in season 1. I don't understand. But it seems like I don't understand why they made the elven rings when they did, and why Halbrand was around to make these elven rings. And then now that they've made them, I don't know why Galadriel's keeping it such a big secret. Yeah, I never got that, and I thought it'll be explained. But it seems like they wrote themselves into a corner, and now they're trying to retcon it or like figure out a way to kind of get past it. And I'm like, why didn't you just go with what was written already? So
yeah.
Anyways, Mordor's looking well. Liked Mordor. They had some nice shots of the flames of Orodruin. And then we get to see Waldrig back again. He's Adar's number 2 now somehow, which, like, you know, he was his number 2 in season 1 as well. But I'm like, why is this guy?
Surely he had loads of, like, he's been alive for thousands of years. They just like, this random old man that came up and
who loves Sauron.
Yeah, exactly.
Who I hate. He's going to be my number 2.
It was kind of weird. But I mean, they're just like, this is the other actor that you know, and now he's evil. So
exactly.
So I'm like, okay, fair enough.
It is one of those things, and actually, there's another character that we'll see reintroduced again that I feel like is just shoehorned in because they want to return an actor rather than having a character be important. So I feel like Waldrig is that for Adar. He's just we just have another recognizable face. So he's obviously the lieutenant. So yeah, people are getting gutted in Mordor. People are getting branded with the Mordor logo. Sauron and Adar confront each other, which is nice. And Halbrand talks of an ancient sorcerer. He mentions power over flesh again. So this comes up all the time.
These writers are just like, do you just like copy and paste that one back in again?
And like a lot of people are talking about how Adar doesn't notice that Halbrand is Sauron, obviously. But like, did you notice like Halbrand has already met Adar in season 1 and he stabs him in the hand?
Yeah.
Was Adar not like, oh, I recognize you. You stabbed me in the hand, you prick. Cut his head off.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know.
Like he came up, he was like, oh yeah, this is their king. Like I saw him.
Yeah, I know, but it was on my second rewatch where I was like, hey, these guys have met each other before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of, nothing happened there. So,
also, can I ask, what is Waldrig's weapon that he's using when he's kind of torturing?
Is it like a?
It looks like a stick. It looks like a toy hammer, or like it looks like. It's like. It's funny. There's a scene where it shows like Halbrand's face.
Sore at all.
It does. That's what I was gonna say. They're like, "We're coming for the torturer now," and it zooms in on Halbrand's face, and you can see he's getting hit, and he's just got no facial expression on. It's like
he's ow. Please, no.
It's like a rubber hammer. He's like, burr, burr, and he's just hitting him in like the chest or something.
Now don't massage me.
But that like
it seemed like a stick that had like cloth on the top, but like loads of layers of cloth to make it nice and soft. So it's nice to touch on the skin.
Again, like they've done some, kind of gruesome scenes really well. And here I was like, oh, they're going to like torture him for information. This is going to be good. And I was like, this is like two brothers that are like, I'm going to fight you, but I can't hurt your face because mom's going to see that. So I'm going to like hit you a few times in the belly. And then, that'll be it. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, I know. I thought that. I didn't make note of it, but yeah, that is true. By the way, what do you think of the new Adar actor, Sam Hazeldine? I know we talked about it before. If anyone's listened to our podcasts, if anyone listens to them. No, if you've listened to our podcast breaking down the trailer, we kind of Johnny mentioned that he wasn't a huge fan of the new actor, just the look of him. He kind of looks a bit greeny or smiley, and obviously it's nearly impossible to replace.
It's really difficult.
Joseph Mall, who was one of the standout performers of season 1. So, with that said and done, you've seen so much of him so far. What do you think?
I think he's doing a good job. Mm-hmm. I think I like that he sounds great.
Yeah.
His voice is like he's really obviously taken, okay, I need to try and impersonate what Joseph Mall was going for in season 1.
Yeah.
So he sounds very, very similar. He just doesn't look as imposing or as like Joseph Mall had this like kind of like long, weird looking face. Mm-hmm. Like he just looked more threatening and it looked more real. It looks like every time I look at him, I'm looking at a guy wearing makeup.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do feel that.
Now, when I saw Adar in season 1, I didn't like, maybe the first time I was like, whoa, his prosthetics look class. But then like I was like, now I just see the character. Whereas
Okay, right.
like maybe I'll get there in another. I mean, we've seen 3 episodes and I'm still warming to it a little bit, but maybe over time it will become more like, okay, this is Adar. But it's very like, I mean, again, it's very, very difficult for any actor to come in and replace or take over a role from another actor previously.
Especially when it's one of the best actors.
Especially when he's done so well. So he had like probably the hardest job to do.
Yeah,
so,
like I do feel like they are 2 different Adars to me. Like I don't feel.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it as well in the previous podcast where we discussed Adar's character, and I think I said something about how I felt Joseph Maul was kind of the opposite of what you said. Like he was more caring and loving for the orcs. And I know there were scenes where he like burned their arms in the sunshine, but he felt more like Adar, like a father.
Yeah.
And this new guy just seems a little bit more
like a brother.
He's a bit more like grunty, and he's just kind of feck off.
Yeah, I don't see the orcs like revering him as much as Adar in season 1. Again, this isn't the actor's fault. This
No,
is,
not at all.
Just like the way
my
the
head
writers.
canon.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I think we should.
It's just we'll move on. But it seems like 2 different Adars to me. But anyways, Adar says that Sauron is dead. He's trying to. I think he says this to Waldrig or one of his orcs, but he clearly isn't convinced himself, because he kind of goes, Sauron is dead. And he's kind of looking around. But anyways, now we're back to the stranger. We get to see the stranger for the first time in season 2, and he's getting visions of some staff, and his theme is back as well, which is really cool. His musical theme. Yeah. I always like to make note on that. Nori's there too. Yeah, and she has an Irish accent again, kind of.
It seems a bit stronger, her accent.
It seems worse.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because she was one of the...
She was pretty good in season 1 at the accent, and now it's like...
I think
she's forgotten how to do it.
Yeah, she's kind of playing into it too hard, and... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. You guys can tell us, what do you think? Do we sound like Nori? Because...
Does Nori sound like us?
She's supposed... I don't know what you're talking about, Jonathan. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I much prefer the stranger's speech this season.
Oh, he sounds
so much more like a wizard.
My note is like I said, I enjoyed the stranger's portrayal and dialogue. That's what I've been writing down here.
I don't even mean his dialogue. His dialogue is great, but I just the way he's not going snails. Which
I enjoyed snails.
I enjoyed snails. But like at the end of season 1, like the very end, he starts to speak a bit normally and coherently. But I think whatever he's done, he's changed his accent, or he's changed the tone of the way he speaks, and he sounds so wise and wizardly.
He does. He sounds like he's just full of really good advice all the time. And again, I think maybe some of the best... I know that what you're saying about the way he's speaking and like his actual like intonation and stuff maybe has changed. But I think some of the best writing and some of the best dialogue was given to him in episode 1 as well.
Yeah.
That part where he was talking about how she misses home, and sometimes the heaviest burden that we carry is... I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, the heaviest burden... Do you have that written down?
He says, strange how that which is left behind is the heaviest burden to carry.
That was cool.
That was a nice...
Because I was like, I have to write that down, and then I just forgot about it.
Somebody will write it down for you.
I knew that you were doing the main preparations for this episode, so I was like, Dave, get that. And then you did. I knew it.
He also calls himself a wizard in that same scene, which is quite cool. He says something like...
I'm a wizard, Harry.
No, he says something like, perhaps wizards aren't fair, or something like that. And I was like, oh, he's learning. He's learning.
Yeah.
Because Nori says something isn't fair.
He's good. Like, I was quite enjoying his scenes. All the time. They're very good. Like, actually, the opposite of season 1, really.
Yeah, it's funny how some things have flipped. Like some of the Southlanders or even Numenor scenes, I'm kind of like, here we go. And then and then when we're back at the stranger, I'm like, what's going on with him? Like we know he's going to meet Tom Bombadil. Is that happening now? Like, what's going on? So yeah, he talks of his home that he doesn't remember, but he gets glimmers beyond the sunset, which is obviously Valinor he's talking about, because the sun sets in the west of Middle Earth just like it does on planet Earth. They're also followed by some Tusken Raiders, and we don't know who these guys are. If anyone doesn't know, Tusken Raiders are Star Wars characters, but they do look like them, and they're out in the sand.
And they have tusks.
Yeah. So, by the way, I don't know, did you pick up on this, but I thought it was very obvious. There's a clear Lord of the Rings shout out when Nori goes, "We're going in circles."
Yeah, I did. I wrote
Let's
that
face
down.
it, Mr. Frodo, we're lost.
Yeah,
She doesn't say that, but she goes, "We're going in circles."
She did, really.
And she says, "We're lost."
Oh, they're French.
Oh, they're French. Nori mentions Schnails as well, I thought.
She does. Yeah, she does mention Schnails. Good callback. But yeah, again, so I think exactly like you said, and I wrote that down as well, the comment about we're going in circles. We're lost. I was like, yeah, again, there's just it was
I like it.
I know, but it was kind of like
Reminds me of the thing I love, Lord of the Rings.
Celebrimbor in season 1, where he was like, isn't that odd now? And I was like, Bilbo.
yeah.
Just little things like that where you're like, maybe it's perfectly like normal for someone to say we're going in circles. Why are they going in circles, by the way, in the desert?
How could they? Like, it's flat. Walk straight.
It made sense in the Lord of the Rings when they were going through like
up and down rocky mountains.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know, but
and they've got they're looking at the stars like
they're obviously not great, Scott. Like
I don't know. We'll get to that.
A traveler,
maybe
like,
in a moment.
Be...
Or I'll let you ask the question.
No, but also she's complaining that they haven't eaten in days. Why doesn't she eat the bunch of olives that are in her hair? Like I'm just looking at a pile of grapes and olives in her hair. I'm like, she's like, we haven't eaten since those snails. And I'm like, stop eating snails and eat those olives. They're delicious. They're just decorative olives. But yeah, moving on. We now get to see Poppy is back in the mix, and she falls into their silly little trap. And to me, I had to admit, like, it was a bit of an eye roll when I saw Poppy come back. I was like, oh, here we go. Like, why didn't she come straight away with them, or why did she come after they left? Like, I don't understand. How did she catch up with them? Was she way back in the with the others for like days and weeks, and then she's like, actually, you know what, I'll leave. And now she's called. This
is my biggest issue with episode 1. I did not like this idea at all. I don't know if, like, when season 1 ended, maybe they did some like they checked audiences and like got feedback, and people were like, oh, we enjoyed this and we enjoyed this, and like there was a high score for we enjoy the combination of Poppy and Nori together, and they were like, we have to bring her back, and somehow I don't know, but it just literally the most recent episode that we had seen before this season, this episode 1. Was in the final one of the final scenes of season 1 was this emotional goodbye. It's this like, I'm going to let my friend go off on her journey, and I'm going to take over the role of Sadok, and I'm going to be the what's it called, the trail finder for the Harfoots. That's my new role. I've got my purpose. She's got her purpose. It's an emotional goodbye, and then literally the next episode is like, oh, I'm back, and also. So first of all, I had 2 main questions. Very simple. Why? And how? So the why, and again,
where?
Yeah, and whom? But like the why is, why would they do that? Why would they break that? Like, okay, we had this big emotional goodbye, and now it's just meaningless. It doesn't count for anything. But the how is even more crazy. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They've been going. I'm imagining they've been gone for months.
That's what I thought. I'm like, so was she like? Did she leave the next morning and has been like a day behind them for months?
No, because she said like that she went back and she was like, oh yeah, you didn't
go far.
No, yeah, but she said that, but she also said that like, oh, your parents kind of took me in, and your mum was telling me, oh, I had to do all the chores, and your dad was saying, oh, you know, you don't have to do all this kind of stuff. And I'm assuming that was probably a long period, like weeks and months, whatever. And then it's like you and I having a big emotional goodbye, and I'm like, Dave, I'm going to go with this other random tall person and go to Germany. And we're just going to start walking. And we don't have a map. We're just going to follow our nose. And we just start walking for weeks and months. Now, maybe you have a map, but we don't. So you're not going to go the same route as we are. And you also leave this location. You go to a different location. You spend like weeks and months there. And then you're like, after a while, you're like, you know what? I'm going to go follow them.
Yeah.
And you set out. And suddenly you catch us. And you don't, like, first of all,
I know, it makes no sense.
How did you go so fast? And how did you know where we were going to be?
Because her legs are so small.
I know.
It took me out. It took me out completely.
Sorry if I feel like I'm going on a rant here, but
it's fine. Yeah. It's how I felt as well when we talked about a little bit about Waldrig. But Waldrig was fine. Like, but it's
I didn't mind that. I didn't mind Waldrig.
I didn't mind that at all. But that's what I was referencing.
Yeah, I
like
knew that. Yeah,
a familiar face coming back just because of the actress. Who I thought was brilliant in season 1. I thought her accent as well was probably one of the best.
Who's? Sorry?
Whoever plays Poppy. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
she was good.
She did a great job. She's a great singer. But like the whole time when I'm seeing her in season 2, I'm just like, we're bringing back the actor. It's not the character. Like,
look, I'm going to say...
The character wasn't important to this plot at all. And now it's just like, let's bring the actor back involved.
This is episode 1. So I know we're not going to go into any details with episode 2 in this one here. But... I did feel like when I was watching episode 2, I kind of just like, it was all, I was like, okay, this is just what we're doing now, and they're together and whatever. So I think I quickly forgot about it, but it did annoy me that they brought Poppy back for just whatever. But like, I mean, I got over it pretty quickly.
I got over it, but that's
I'm still not over it.
That is, it doesn't sound like you got over it. You just ranted for about 5 minutes about how
I'm over it now. Thanks.
Thanks for getting it off your chest.
You need to be my counselor.
So she reveals that the walking song is the directions to Rune, which is interesting. So the walking song...
That was dumb.
Yeah, well, like, sing to me. I liked that song in season 1.
It was great. It was nice to just hear it again a little bit.
It was nice, to hear, but like, it's one of those things. It's a kind of a movie trope where something that you've been doing or something that's so familiar to you.
There's a hidden meaning.
There's a hidden meaning to it the whole time.
Yeah.
And again, it was a little bit Stranger Things. Actually, no, Stranger Things writing is brilliant. So it was a little bit like children's story that I just didn't love, but
it was a little bit like the Rise of Skywalker. The knife is like no, it's also a map.
No, but that was stupid because they just
was...
introduced the knife and then immediately were like, it's also a map. So
that was really dumb. That was way worse.
Dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
So they arrive in Rune, and it seems familiar to the wizard. What does that mean? What does that mean?
He's been there before, obviously. Like,
yes, or he's at least been there in his mind. So we've talked.
Well, I mean, he's been looking for these stars, and that's like the first thing that when they met him, he was like, "Oh, I need to, like, what's it called? There's something the Hermit's Hat is the name of that constellation." And so and then like when they finally get there and Poppy sees that he's looking at the constellation, she's like, "Oh, you look like you're seeing this not for the first time." It's like, of course, look at the sky. Like you should be like, "Oh my god, you must have been here before."
Well, she does say like, "Welcome to Rune" or something. So she's like, "It looks like you've seen it before."
I don't know. Anyway, but I'm not going to complain about that. But
I think it might be. I'm still holding out. Everyone's talking about the Gandalfisms, but I think we're going to Rune. It's looking blue wizardy to me. We've talked about this to death, so I don't think we're going to bring this up any further. But anyways, the next scene we get to see the Tusken Raiders are back again, and I'm guessing a little glimpse of their musical score as well. We hear a bit of like, it sounds like Celtic music, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, you told me. Now, again, just talking about the music, let's just talk about that for a moment, because I told you that I've listened to the soundtrack quite a bit before.
And I was too busy.
And you were too busy, so you didn't get to listen to it. And I really enjoyed the Rune theme. It starts off with like loads of kind of just vocal melody, but there's loads of dissonance in it as well. They're using like, I don't know, and then I also said this to you before we started recording that it sounds like a different composer in this season. It sounds like someone took Bear McCreary's themes and started to like mess around them, because he's doing he's taking borrowed chords from other keys. He's doing lots of key changes in the middle of songs, which there wasn't a lot of that or hardly any of that at all.
No.
And he's doing that a lot in this one, but it sounds great and I really like it. So he has that with this theme in Rune as well, where there's these vocal choir. They're kind of doing these weird kind of melodic scales that are kind of, sounds like an Eastern scale. There's, as I said, there's loads of dissonance in those chords. And then it kind of shifts. There's like the percussion comes in, and then it kind of goes into this kind of like Celtic jig. And it's class.
I like the jig.
I love it.
I thought it was really good. And I think Bear McCreary, he had to create the themes in season 1. So I think that would have taken him a lot of time. So now he's getting time to play around with those themes. I know he's adding in new themes as well.
But again, if you listen to the album, there's a lot less. There's a lot
less key changes and things like that.
No, not just that, but there's a lot fewer new themes introduced. There's loads of different like sort of things that were called like the pyre, and it's just like a scene where there's a burning at a pyre, which we'll just talk about later. And there's something called I can't remember the title, but something at the well. And again, it's a scene where they're at the well and they're looking for water. So he's kind of creating music for a particular scene, and in that scene, he'll mix loads of the themes that he's already done in season 1. He'll mix and weave them together. Or like you said, when we get to see Galadriel and Elrond together, we hear both their themes. There's a lot of that in the album as well, where it's just kind of, you're you're listening to a song and you're kind of going, oh, I know this, and then suddenly it's like, oh, and there's Halbrand's theme and there's the Stranger's theme, and it's kind of all kind of mixed, and there's this like amalgamation, and it's really cool.
It's cool. I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the music so far in this season.
Sorry, what was your question?
No, that wasn't a question. I wanted to touch on the music there, and so I'm glad you actually brought up Bear. So
good.
We've got that out of the way. But we do see these. I keep calling them Tusken Raiders. I don't know what else to call them. These
Easterlings.
Like desert. Are they?
Yeah.
All right. Easterlings. We have these Easterlings, and we can clearly see the eye, or it looks like the eye of Sauron is like painted on the back of one of these Easterlings' horses. Now, I think we briefly discussed this. Did we discuss this? But like, just the fact that like, what's going on with the eye? Maybe I dreamed it, but
oh no, I think I mentioned it while we were watching an episode last night. I was just like, that eye, and I just said something to you, but we didn't discuss it in detail.
Okay, well, like, what's going on there? Like, has Sauron? Sauron, has he been to the east, or like we know in book lore, Sauron often he retreats to the east whenever he's feeling a bit.
I don't
down.
know.
I think like we've seen like all of Sauron's story. In this first episode. So
I don't know.
Who are they? Are they worshipping some Sauron figure, Morgoth, or like the eye symbol is supposed to be Sauron? So I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Maybe we're going to get another flashback into what Sauron was doing before that fair form speech. Maybe, but that's when he took over from Morgoth. So I don't know, guys. Let us know, what are your theories and thoughts there, because I don't know what's going on. Anyways, we'll flash back to Waldrig. He gets frightened by Halbrand when he comes to like offer him some food. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And he still yearns for Sauron, so that's quite ironic. He's like, tell old Waldrig about Sauron. And then we get to see a lovely CGI warg. Better than season 1?
A million times better than season 1.
Yeah.
Why? Because it didn't shine a flipping spotlight on it in daylight. It's like, and we talked about this again in our review. Again, it's like, when you're using CGI and when you want it to be done tastefully, use like shadows and like
less is more.
Conceal, and like we spoke about like how amazing it was when you're watching the first Jurassic Park movie when they have that like big kind of like mechanical puppet head almost, and it looks so good because it's nighttime. There's like, you only see it properly when there's like a flash of lightning and it's rain. Use that to your advantage, and they did that here. I mean, it still is. You can see it's still the same model and it's the same kind of design that they have. But
way better.
Way more menacing and less janky as well.
Less janky, yeah.
Yeah, just a lot better. Very menacing.
And they did do a really cool jump scare with it. And also,
you could see it coming, but you're like, oh!
Yeah, you can see it coming.
Still got me.
But like, it got me good.
Yeah.
There's black speech, which we hear for the first-ish. Oh no, we hear orcs speaking black speech in the beginning, but when Sauron speaks it, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Like in Charlie Vickers. Yeah, Charlie Vickers is doing a great job as Halbrand / Sauron in this episode.
Yeah. He's good stuff.
He's growing on me.
And he controls the beast, so similar to, as we mentioned at the start of this episode,
sea dragon worm.
The worm. So he seems to have control over all living things. Not really, but evil things anyways. Possibly.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think. Finally, we see the Grey Havens in Linden, but boy, are they less inspiring than the ones in Peter Jackson's ones.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they were beautiful, but like at the same time, it's really remote, and like there's still
just like a little fishing village.
It's like it is a few thousand years before the events of Lord of the Rings, so like I can understand it's not like a big city built around a harbour, but at the same time, it's like what, one building.
Yeah, it's just like one little like around
the
tower.
Countryside.
And and then there's a few mountains around, but like they need to build.
Like there's an abandoned house just over the road that there's more going on there than in the Grey Havens. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, really, I enjoyed Círdan.
I enjoyed Círdan, and by the way, I thought the Grey Havens they looked beautiful as well.
They did,
but when you've seen the Grey Havens in Peter Jackson's and then you go and see them here, I was a little bit like, okay,
and just like the harbour when they're sailing out at the end of the Return of the King, like that whole, it's a enormous harbour. It takes them ages to get out of the harbour, and this is just like a few planks of wood thrown together,
Yeah, it was a little bit weird. But anyways, you mentioned it there. Who do we see here? Who do we meet?
We get to meet Círdan.
And we see a ship, right? No. Círdan the shipwright. Do you want to tell people who Círdan is in case anyone doesn't know?
I don't want to spoil too much stuff, but basically he is like, he is one of the...
That's what I mean, yeah. He's the oldest.
Okay, yeah. So he's him and I think there's one other that they're two of the oldest. He's one of the oldest elves in existence, and basically we see him also equipped with a lovely beard. And the reason he has a beard, elves can grow beards. It just takes them a really, really long time. And he's just been alive long enough. He's in that like cycle of his life where he's actually able to grow a beard now. So he's finally got through puberty, basically. So, but like that's really rare for elves because
there's only 2 that we hear. Maybe 3.
That's basically so he's really he's known for having the beard, but why does he have the beard? Because he's so old. When he's so old, he also has gained so much wisdom over these years, and he is known as Círdan the Shipwright, as you shipwrightly said. And that basically just means he's the person who builds all the boats, and we know that boats with elves, they're so like, important, and so that's a very high honor, and it's not just like, oh, he's just some lowly fisherman or something. He's actually well respected.
But it was mentioned that even Gil-galad might. Oh no, that's the second episode, so never mind that. He's. Oh no, I think it is in this episode that Gil-galad would listen to.
No, it is episode 1.
So he is one. He's probably about 6,000 years old here because he lives to about 10,500 years old in general. So.
Spoiler.
Or maybe he dies. I don't know. But yeah, he's pretty old. He's pretty wise, and he's almost kind of like above all the meddlings of Middle Earth as well. Like we'll see that he doesn't really care for a lot of the dealings, but in a good way. He says perfection only exists in Valinor. That is his opening line. By the way, he's played by Ben Daniels, who's a really good actor. So I'm liking his portrayal so far, even though
really
we've only seen a small.
But again, I think again his dialogue has been well written. I think he's performing it well. He's got a nice cadence to his voice. He's nailing it. I'm believing that he is Círdan.
One of the cool things here as well, he gazes out to the sunset and Valinor basically, and you hear the Valinor theme. And I know we're constantly talking about the music here, but this is probably one of my favorite things about all of the Rings of Power is just the song of Valinor. And maybe that scene in the very first season, or very first episode.
That was
incredible, jaw-dropping for me. And we both dropped our jaws together.
We did.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then we get to flip back to Gil-galad. He signs a letter, tells the audience exactly what it contains, which is nice of him. Halbrand is Sauron, guys.
What?
The letter case is very cool. That was my note on this little scene. Do you know the little...
Yeah, that was really cool. It seemed a little bit too modern.
Yeah, it was.
It's like he closed it, then like clicked a button on it or something.
Yeah, and then it was like.
It was like a green light, just like. But I liked the wax seal as well.
Oh yeah, you gotta love that.
Very cool.
It's always very satisfying.
I know.
In medieval shows and movies.
I love a bit of wax on some paper.
Do you know what I love when someone has like their sigil as a ring?
Oh and then they go. I was about to say, the one thing is that he didn't do it in his ring.
No, but no, I'll forgive him for that.
He'll start doing it now with his ring of power.
Yeah. So his dialogue is quite nice in the scene. He said, I thought it was actually quite funny where Galadriel is like, thank you for trusting me.
Oh,
and he's like, you and I are momentarily aligned for one reason. Your actions left us no alternative. And I was like, what a burn. He's like, you think I trust you?
He is good at burning people, I suppose.
He's good at burning. So he mentions throwing her to the Etten Moors, which is kind of cool. We get a glimpse of the name Etten Moors, and that is also known as the Trollfells. They were the highland region of Eriador, which was situated west of the Misty Mountains. So she says that she swore to put it right, and he responds that he didn't think, or she wouldn't be here if he thought otherwise. But yeah, what do you think of... We don't really get to see a lot of Galadriel's character in the first episode. Like, what do you think?
This was a nice moment. And it's... As I said also at the beginning, the scene that I didn't really like with Elrond ending up jumping off the waterfall, I thought in that scene that it seemed like it was a little bit of role reversal, and that maybe it would have been better if Galadriel had been the one to be more like, we should be weary of Sauron and be careful about his possible corruption, all that kind of stuff. She then kind of, in my opinion, in that scene took on more Elrond's kind of temperament, and then I think she's continued it in this scene as well, and kind of just seems a little bit more like less hot-headed and kind of more just she understands that she's messed up big time, and she's kind of accepting it and realizing that she's not, you know, impervious to wrong, and she can make mistakes, and that she needs to probably start taking advice off other people, respect her king maybe a little bit more. So yeah, definitely an improvement on her character in this little scene, I think.
And she's getting less dialogue, and she's less prominent as a character as well. Like I feel like she knows she's not the main character right now. But like, it's definitely doing her character a lot of service, because, you know, they were kind of shoehorning her into every situation in season 1, and I don't know, I didn't love the way she was portrayed in total in season 1, like overall. So I think she is seeming, you mentioned her temperament there. It's a lot better this season. But she does do some Sherlock Holmesing on Elrond, which is quite cool. She realized that he would be with a really old, trusted, wise person, and she also drops a pun. She says, turn the tides his way, which I thought was like, tides, clearly it's Círdan. So yeah, that was nice. That
was good.
And yeah, I just have to mention again, like, what's going on with Gil-galad's hair, because it just looks so bad this season. I'd never picked up on the sides.
Oh no, it's always been like that.
Oh, it's awful.
I know. Every time I see his face, I'm just staring at his hair. Like,
yeah, me
that's
too.
all I do. Like,
please give him a haircut. I know we want the elves to have long hair. We want the elves to have long hair, but this is the one where I'm like, cut it off. So we get Elrond. He suggests to Círdan to examine the rings, but like we mentioned before, Círdan's so old, so wise that he doesn't really care about, like, he's like, I've already seen Lord Celebrimbor's work before. So
been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Like, he doesn't really care. So I thought that was quite cool. We get to see how kind of non-worldly, almost worldly that he is in a way.
Yeah. No, I did enjoy that, yeah.
Yeah, he suggests that perhaps Celebrimbor was successful creating such things of power if it has turned elf against elf. So again, we talked about his dialogue. Like, I think it is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely.
And he also mentions that Sauron didn't touch the rings, which is important, right?
Yes, that is important.
That is important because the 3 elven rings haven't been corrupted. In the book, they were supposed to be forged in secret, which obviously the show isn't doing in here, but like Celebrimbor and Sauron Anatar create the rings together, like the 19 rings. No, sorry.
The 16 rings.
The 16 rings of power together. So
the 7 and the 9.
Yeah, the 7 and the 9. They create them together. So obviously Anatar / Sauron has been touching these, and that's corrupted them. But then
putting his finger in all of them.
In secret, Celebrimbor goes and forges 3 rings of his own, the elven rings, and so
he needs more hands to put on 16 rings.
So like
he's putting on his fingers and his toes.
Well, 20 rings. That's one for every finger and toe.
Just imagine
that was the master plan.
I can just imagine him sitting there with his feet up in the air. He's just like, look at how pretty I am.
Yeah. So Elrond asks Círdan to destroy the rings, and Círdan is like, buddy, relax, it's fine. He also mentions Manwë too, which is kind of cool.
So he mentions just the war where Beleriand, sank and the world broke, and he's talking about there was a scar on the earth where nobody knew, not even Manwë knew the depths of it or something like that, or only Manwë. I can't remember.
Well, he was about to say something, and then they hear the horses, and I was like, what? Finish your sentence, man.
Yeah, tell us about Manwë.
So Galadriel goes to talk to Elrond. Elrond suggests that the darkness could be calling to her, which was an interesting burn. And then we get to see Círdan again. He's on his way to dump the rings like a mafia don disposes of a body. But like, can you tell me, because I've obviously watched the episode twice now as well, and I haven't really seen anything online, but what the hell happens when he tries to drop the rings in the water? Like, is there like a little explosion outside or something?
No, I think it's just a wave just rocks the boat.
Something happens. There's a noise.
I mean,
and he's like, and then he drops.
He shouldn't get surprised by a wave. He's the shipwright.
Yeah, exactly.
But the first time I saw it, I thought there was like some sort of divine intervention.
Yeah,
that caused the boat to shake or something like that. But then I think maybe it was just a wave that just hit the boat and like it rocked in a weird way, and he kind of caused him to.
I thought the first time I watched it, he literally dropped the rings and they were like spat back up at him. And then he was like,
Oh, no,
now I
I
have to
don't think
watch
so.
these. It was like the rings refused to go in. That's what I thought the first time. The second time,
Well,
I rewatched and went back a few times. And
Yeah.
like, nothing happens. The boat rocks.
No, it's like
there's a loud noise.
he's like, he's maybe slightly doubting himself because he's holding them out over the water and he's about to drop them, but he doesn't just like throw them out like casual. He holds them there and he's waiting for a moment. So he is kind of maybe having some of this internal doubt. And then there's this like shove on the boat from like a wave or something. So maybe he kind of goes, this could be a sign from, I don't know, from Ulmo or something. That maybe I should just take a little look at these things.
Yeah, which he does. And he looks at the rings and all is well with Círdan. That's pretty cool. So before our final scene, we jump back to Adar/Sauron. And he mentions, I think Adar mentions that 13 of them were blessed by Morgoth. I thought we were going to get into Adar's backstory here, but we don't really know. We still don't really know what's going on with him.
We just get the only like information of his interaction with Sauron. And it seems like Sauron was pure sound to him. He was like, here, would you like some wine?
Sorry, this is what I want to talk about. He mentions that he saw Morgoth's servant Sauron, who was beautiful. He offered him blood moon red wine, which he drank. This is when he was chained to a peak, by the way.
Yeah.
And I don't know the point of the story. Like,
I don't know either.
He's like, and then I drank it all.
I drank it all.
Sounds
it was
delicious.
kind of like Anakin, like, I killed them. I killed them all. I drank them all. It's like, and you're like, and then was it evil wine?
And
What
then?
what happened?
Like, does he
He's
respect
like,
Sauron?
the end.
Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of weird.
Maybe we're going to get more, like, that might, hopefully that'll come back and it'll have some sort of
Yeah, like
purpose.
they'll meet each other again. And he's like, so what happened after the wine that I gave you? That I know the story, but you were clearly telling the audience. But anyways, Halbrand tells Adar that Sauron has returned in a new form, and he bargains a deal for his release, and getting him to trust the elves, the trust of the elves, and all that. Then we get to see Waldrig makes him vow allegiance to Adar. Halbrand manages to throw shade at Adar, mentioning his death and not his name. So I thought that was quite cool. He what he says is, quote, "I vow to serve the Lord of Mordor to the end of my days and his." Then he looks super creepy.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool, yeah.
Although I don't think Sauron, it would have been like hard for him to just say, I serve Adar, and then just go back to his promise as well. Like,
yeah.
But it was just kind of cool.
I thought it was
yeah,
cool. I like that. I like that dialogue. Then finally, he rides off into the sunset. We get to see Waldrig finally gets his comeuppance. And we hear the screams, and Halbrand looks back and kind of gives a little smile.
That was cool as well. I like just him like, good. He got eaten by that warg.
And it explains that Waldrig is gone now because we've been seeing a lot of promotional stuff for this new orc Glug.
Oh, yeah.
So he's probably going to become the second in command now.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So the final scene, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been kind of singing this around the house. It's so catchy. Gil-galad's song.
Oh,
What do you
I've been
think?
singing that as well. Yeah. Again, as I said, I've been listening to the album quite a bit. And
Oh, it's in the album?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
see. Oh, man, I need to get on that.
Chief, so strange for you not to be listening to it.
So Oasis and then Bear McCreary.
Did you get Bear McCreary tickets this morning?
So yeah. You like?
It's class. I love it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Great
He sang it
voice.
at like Comic-Con.
That's right.
sang at San Diego Comic-Con,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I didn't know it then. It didn't have so much resonance and feeling with me.
Resonaissance.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. In this scene, it looks like the elves are about to leave Middle-earth until Círdan pops up to the rescue bearing one of the rings of power. And I thought it was a very ballsy move for him to just assume he gets one. He's like, wait a minute. And he just walks in bearing this ring.
He holds up with like his closed fist. And
Yeah.
He's like, we have the power. And I was just like, that's kind of cool.
All right, Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
We have the power.
Yeah.
And then he goes, perfection does not only exist in Valinor. It is here. Celebrimbor has brought it to Middle-earth. And then he whips out those bad boys, which is pretty sweet. And then, of course, we get to see Elrond. He's shouting no. We get some trailer-worthy action shots of the rings falling in slow motion. And again, I wanted to mention here, like, why are some of the female elves still wearing those stupid veils in the background?
I don't know.
That. These are some of the things that I thought maybe they'll just learn from in season 1 and be like, that was weird and dumb. But yeah, some of the women elves are wearing these veils, so I don't know why that's happening. So we get Gil-galad and Galadriel pop on the rings, and the results are amazing. Restoration and light. The tree of linden shines majestically. The music is amazing, and I thought it was very Lord of the Ringsy here as well. And we then see the song that's played at the end of season 1. Do you know the kind of rings theme? Yeah. As Elrond like kind of storms off in a huff. And this was one of these moments where I was like, why Elrond kind of realizes he's wrong, and then he goes up to Galadriel and stares at her and then storms off in a huff. And I'm like, he's just annoyed because he was proven wrong. I know he's not technically wrong, but in this situation...
He still doesn't think he's wrong. But also, well, first of all, should he not be on trial for sedition?
What does that mean?
Like
sad addition.
Like, he's basically like a traitor to the crown. Because he defied his king's order, like stole these... You know,
this
in
is
a normal
thing.
situation, I'd be like, okay, well, he should be seized and at least be like put on trial or something. Maybe be like, okay, look, we let you off with a... But he's just like... Just hanging out like nothing's happened.
Well, we're going to talk about this in a later episode because there's a huge act of sedition, as you call it, or treason, in a later episode that we mentioned last night. And it's just, again, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, they're all great friends, but he's his king. You know, this wouldn't happen in House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones. If you defy your king to that effect, where you make him have to go and chase you down and
basically almost like, because basically the plan was, okay, we're going to take these rings, we're going to see hopefully if they work. Maybe they'll work, maybe they won't, but we're going to try. And then Elrond just says like, I'm taking away that decision from you, king. I'm going to take the rings, jump into the sea. And then they don't get him in time, and it's only because Círdan shows up at the last minute. But what are they doing all there together? They're at a ceremony to leave Middle Earth, because he's like, we failed, we need to leave, and we know Sauron's back, so he's probably going to kill all the people that live here.
All because of Elrond.
Everything's because of Elrond, and then Elrond's just there, and he's not in chains. It's not like...
That's true. Yeah, I did think it's weird that he was there, but I forgot. Like, yeah, this is all because of him.
Yeah,
but yeah, why are they just back together?
But before I get into any negatives, I would like to say that the visual scene was very stunning.
Of the rings.
Well, of the rings, but also of like when they put them on, the kind of regeneration.
That's Sorry, that's what I mean. The rings power.
Yeah.
The rings of power.
Yeah,
that was cool.
And like the way just the glow, and there was like this powerful glow. It was like
music.
The music. Oh, David, the music.
It's like your new catchphrase.
But unfortunately, I can't finish this episode without saying that random selection for the rings, really? Is that how they're being like...
What, because they fell to those...
Like, I mean, first of all, we know these are the show is called The Rings of Power. These are the most important things in the entire series. These rings, they need to go to people of high importance, and it should be like a very careful selection, and it should be like a process where the king is like, right, I need to make sure I'm making the right decisions. Who's going to get these rings? We know from the lore and from the books that Galadriel got one, Círdan got one, and Gil-galad got one. Obviously, Gil-galad was the High King, so that makes sense. But then I was like, oh, how is he going to like make his selection of giving it? Why does he give it to Círdan, the shipwright? You know, and then why does he choose Galadriel? In the books, Galadriel is a perfectly like respectable and like it's a correct decision to choose her. In this world,
absolutely not.
Barely tolerates Galadriel.
Barely trusts her.
Yeah, he doesn't trust her at all. It's like he feels like he can't stand being in the same room as her. And then Círdan, it's just because he failed at his task of throwing away the rings. He's just like, now I'm the owner of one of these rings. And then, but like Galadriel, it's even worse. She just gets the ring by proximity. She's just there when it falls down the steps beside her, and then she like slowly bends down, picks it up. Nobody else in the surroundings are just like, hey, wait a minute, don't put that on. I think our Lord, whatever, he should be doing it.
Do you think that that's also a possible power of the ring, that it's almost like the ring chose her, and then the fact that she plonks it on and the others plonk them on at the same time, and then the magic of the trees and the everything happens.
The magic only happens when the three of them are all simultaneously put on.
But maybe going through everyone's minds is that like this wouldn't happen if it was anyone else. It was like the ring chose her. It had to be her putting on the ring. So like I get that, but
I would much have preferred to see the High King sit down and take some time and come on and be like, I have made my decision. I am going to choose Círdan, and then maybe he says, and for the final ring, it's going to go to drumroll, Galadriel, and this is her moment of like, oh my god, the king does trust me. I have his full respect.
He should explain why.
Yeah, 100%.
But you see, this is the thing. They kind of wrote themselves into a corner here where they didn't really do Galadriel's character justice in season 1, and now she's
and then
now they're
like
the
Elven rings.
Now we need to like calm her down and make her a little bit more regal and give her a ring. But like now I suppose it just kind of falls at her feet. But I think they are going for that vibe of like the rings, like the fact that the ring fell to her is a sign that it belongs to her.
Like the thing is, I don't think anyone would have been angry with the decision for Círdan to have a ring, because as we said already, he's one of the people that maybe could command the respect of the King Gil-galad, but because he's so wise and so old. So it makes sense for him to have it. But I don't like the fact that him getting the ring is just Elrond's here, like, here, can you go and destroy these rings? Yeah, sure, no problem. And then he's like, oh, actually, I'm going to look at them and I'm going to put one on.
Yeah, like I think if he came back not wearing the ring, that would have been better for me. And then he presents them to Gil-galad,
and Gil-galad makes a decision. Okay, you're going to get one.
Exactly, and he's like, well,
you're going to get a ring because you're going to get a ring.
You brought them to me, and you made that decision that actually benefited all of us.
You've saved Middle Earth.
You saved Middle Earth, and but also even Gil-galad, when he's putting on one, it doesn't look like he's kind of silently doing it just because he likes the look of bling.
Yeah.
And he's just like in the corner being like,
I happen to have one finger that's slingless.
That slipped us on here. But yeah, we get that shot of, it looks like a group of girls that come back from a nail salon where they're all just like studying their fingers.
Did you notice how shaky all their hands were?
No.
Very shaky.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they were on the pints the night before.
I don't know. I was like, if that was me, I would have been like, cut. Okay, let's go. Let's do that one more time, and let's shakes, guys, please. I don't. Maybe I need to rewatch it. I don't know. I was like, it seems like the actors were just like, maybe they'd done it so many times they were like, I can't actually hold my hand steady anymore.
Right? Yeah.
It looked a bit weird. But
so the final shot shows Celebrimbor and one of his Gwathi Myrdain, who are the workers that basically help create the ring. So this will be one of the people that's in the forge with him. I can't remember the name of the new actress, but she's going to be new to the show. She's probably going to be important. And they talk about a Southlander messenger, and lo and behold, it's Halbrand back in Eregion. So, will Celebrimbor let him in or not? Cliffhanger, end of the episode. That's all fine. We'll get into it in the second episode. So, yeah, we've talked that one to death.
Yeah.
What do you think, though, Johnny? Best moment, worst moment? Do you have one?
I think I came out sounding quite negative.
Yeah.
So apologies, people. I didn't.
Don't have a best moment.
I didn't think I was going to be like that. It all just came out of me.
Can I just?
And I'd also like to say that I did. This was a low point. It definitely the next couple of episodes picks up a lot. And there was just certain things I was like, I don't like this. No, please don't. And then episode 2, I was like, okay, I think we're going in the right direction.
I get you. I agree with you, but I also want the listeners and viewers to understand as well that myself and Johnny haven't talked about this. So we watched the first episode like 2 days ago. So first of all, apologies for the late recording, but it was just logistics. So we watched the first episode a few days ago. Then I came back to Galway, the west of Ireland, and we watched the other 2 episodes together. And we just refused to talk to each other the whole time. We were just like, no, yeah. And then like my mom was like, how was the episode, you guys? We were like, shut up, sandwich me. So we haven't talked about it. So I think a lot of Johnny's built up negativity is just because we needed to get it out of our system.
I know, yeah.
And we can't fake it. We can't fake it for you guys. We can't say we hate something.
I probably should
or love something.
I probably should have done this off camera, and then I could have been really fake and like positive and stuff. But I think it's probably good to just get that out there, and now I can be like, right, here's so much, like there's so much room for improvement now, and they do improve it in the next, spoiler alert, the next couple episodes they do improve that.
I do think as well in general that it seems to be off at a better start than last season. Not a better start, but just I think better pacing. I think things are going well. Yeah, actually one of the things is that they're less jumping around to kind of random storylines. So we got a little bit of the stranger in this one, but it wasn't so jarring and like, okay, we're dealing with the Númenor storyline, then suddenly we're over with the stranger storyline. Suddenly now we're back to like the rings. I like how the
first 22 minutes, I think, they stayed with the Sauron Halbrand story, how he became Sauron. And it was nice just to get that kind of constant like consistency and that flow of one story for quite a while. And that was really enjoyable. So so you asked me best moments and worst moments. Best moment, I think I'm going to be really kind of not give you a straight answer to this one. I really enjoyed the Sauron story. I think that Sauron and the actor Charlie Vickers are doing a really great job on that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Stranger a lot, and that almost caught me by surprise how much I enjoyed him compared to how much I didn't enjoy him in season 1.
Yeah.
And I also really enjoyed Círdan. If I'm going to give it to like one person, like character of the episode, I was going to say the Stranger, but now I might just say Sauron Halbrand.
Yeah, he's doing very well this season.
I would say the one standout moment that made me feel most like that I really liked was that one line that the Stranger said about it's funny how the things you leave behind can be the heaviest burden to carry.
Yeah.
And I thought that was maybe the most beautiful line and
very Tolkien-ness.
Really made me feel the feels.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I actually just, because you mentioned Halbrand Sauron thing, it's so nice to actually not have this big mystery box question mark over who Sauron is, over what Halbrand's motives are, and we know exactly what he's doing, what he's going through, and we're getting to see that play out on the screen.
Yeah, they could have done this in season 1, and it's so much more enjoyable when you're like, you know he's Sauron, and you know that the other people don't know.
Yeah.
So everything he says, you're like, we know he's got a double motivation here.
Exactly, yeah.
And so...
Because we didn't understand the interaction between him and Adar in season 1. He was like... Do you remember when he stabs him?
Yeah, he's like, remember me. He's like,
no.
I'm
like, should we remember? We don't know either of these guys. You guys are new to us completely. So it's just a lot better. I think
we're seeing behind the veil now. And that's much more fun from like a viewer's perspective.
I'm going to say my best moment was either the exclaims in Sindarin or Gil-galad's song. So... That's
very good.
2 moments of Gil-galad, which I'm surprised at.
GG.
He's barely in it. Yeah, in my notes, he's GG. So
same here.
Good game. Worst moment?
I'm between Poppy's return. That was one of them, but I think I'm going to have to give it to just the random choosing of the people who are going to get the rings.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did not like that just direction that they're like, okay, who shall get the rings of power, the show's main focus? Who are we going to give them to for the elves? Well, one fell down these steps and Galadriel was the nearest person, so she could just have that one. And the other guy was just, they were stolen and they were given to someone that was going to sail out to sea and throw them into this big hole, and he just gets hit by a wave and decides not to do it. I don't know. It all seemed...
It seemed rushed as well. Like, I felt like they just wanted 3 people to wear the rings in the first episode, and I felt like, why don't they just reveal them again in the first episode? And
or like you said, if the final scene was Círdan bringing them back, and it's like, oh, now
but you don't get the whole regeneration.
You don't get the whole regeneration thing, not yet. Maybe that's episode 2 or even episode 3. It doesn't matter. But just now we have the rings again, and give Gil-galad time. Be like, he's like, lock him away on his own, and be like, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to just maybe counsel from my closest advisors. Maybe that's not Elrond anymore. I don't know. But I need to make this really important decision as to who I'm going to give these rings to, and that wasn't given to us, unfortunately.
No, that was unfortunate. That was Johnny's worst moment. My worst moment was probably the chase scene of Elrond and Galadriel.
Yeah.
Hundreds of miles. Yeah.
It's funny how...
It was weird.
The elves were probably my favourite part of all of season 1.
Yeah.
And in this one episode, I was like... Well, then again, you said your favourite moment was also an elvish part. But
yeah,
but your worst point was an elvish part, and my worst part was an elvish part.
But also my favourite moment was a... Gah!
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't too serious. Yeah, I really liked the song. I thought that was cool.
The song was good. It's weird. Ups and downs. Yeah. Elrond's still cool. I still like Elrond.
Oh, Elrond is cool. Yeah.
He's a boss.
Yeah, so guys, let us know what your best and worst moments were for episode 1 of season 2 of The Rings of Power. That about wraps up our breakdown of the entire episode. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Please let us know what you thought of the first episode in total. And don't forget to leave a review, a rating, or subscribe to us on YouTube now if you're seeing us there. Because, we're back on YouTube and you should see our faces. We're giving you fingers. We're doing things here and you won't be able to see this in podcast form. So, we'll see you for the breakdown of episode 2. Good luck.
See you guys.